poem we are going to read is the Lake Isle of Innisfree. The poem was written by William Butler Yeats. Who is Yeats? The greatest poet, greater than Shakespeare, right? To me, right? He was a poet. He actually lived a life of poet. To tell you the truth, frankly, to be a poet is very difficult, right? It's impossible to make a living by writing poetry. Is it possible? No, impossible. Even today, it's not possible to make a living, right? Do you? How many books of poetry do you buy per year? Did you buy a book of poetry? Never. So, poets cannot make a living by writing poetry. So even great poets did something else. For example, in America, there's a poet, William Carlos Williams. There was a poet, William Carlos Williams. I think he revolutionized American poetry. His poetry is very unique. The way he wrote poems was different from anyone in the history of poetry. He revolutionized poetry. But his main occupation was what? Doctor, medical doctor, child doctor, right? And his poetry is unique, very beautiful. And there is another great poet in America, Wallace Stevens. Wallace Stevens. William Carlos Williams and Wallace Stevens, they are totally different, but he was also unique American poet, but rather traditional. So, but what was his job besides writing poetry? He worked for an insurance company, right? Insurance company. Of course, he was promoted to the rank of vice president, and nobody in his company knew that he was writing poetry, right? Of course, he took a break, summer vacation, went to Florida, and he wrote poetry there. And probably, I think he is the greatest poet, greatest 20th century poet, along with T.S. Eliot and William Carlos Williams and W.B. Yeats and Ezra Pound, things like that. So actually, T.S. Eliot, he went to England, UK, and he worked for a bank. He was a bank. He worked for a bank. But Yeats, it didn't do anything. He only wrote poetry. What does it mean? He was very poor, right? He didn't have a bus fare, right? He was so poor, and he could not afford to ride a bus. He walked a long distance, right? He walked on foot. But eventually he won the Nobel Prize in literature, eventually. And so one time he tried to write short stories, right? To sell it to the magazines or newspapers. And Robert Bridges praised was like Yeats's short stories so much. And you'll make a great storyteller. But he stopped writing poetry, short stories, and then he devoted his whole time to writing poetry. And before that, actually, Yeats wanted to be a painter. Actually, I don't know why he wanted to paint, but when he was young, he made drawings, along with his younger brother, Jack Yeats, and his father was a painter. Actually, his father, John Yeats, had been a lawyer, attorney. He practiced law, right? If you're a lawyer, you make a lot of money, right? Today, even at the time, they made a lot of money, but Yeats' father gave it up. He gave up law, and he became a portrait painter. He went to the United States, and he lived in New York, and he died poor. And as he was painting, his family was so poor, right? So father sent their family to mother's family. And mother's family lived in Sligo, a village called, fishing village called Sligo. Sligo is located in the southwest of Ireland, right? Ireland is a Northern Ireland, belongs to the UK, right? United Kingdom, UK, and Southern Ireland is Ireland. So it's a small island, but it's divided in two parts, like Korea. And of course, there was struggle against UK, and Belfast. There were explosions, bomb exploded frequently, but now it's calm, settled down. But anyway, Yeats spent most of his time in Sligo and London. And while he was in London, he missed his hometown. His hometown was Dublin, right? Dublin, the capital city of Ireland is Dublin, right? And he spent his childhood in Sligo, and this is like his hometown. And so he missed Sligo, right? So while he was in London on a pavement, he thought about, he was dreaming of going back to his hometown, Sligo. And the poem, the Lake Isle of Innisfree, is a poem of place, right? And it's very beautiful. And all of you got the handout now? Okay. Page 44, the Lake Isle of Innisfree. Innisfree is the name of the island, Innisfree. Lake Isle. Isle means a small island, very small island. So Lake Isle of Innisfree. I'm going to read it. I will arise and go now, and go to Innisfree. And a small cabin built there, of clay and wattles made. 9 bin rows will I have there, a hive for the honeybee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the vales of morning to where the cricket sings. There, midnight's all a glimmer, noon a purple glow, and evening full of the linnet's wings. I will arise and go now, for almost night and day I hear lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore. When I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's gray, I hear it in the deep heart's core. What do you think? Do you find it beautiful? What? Very musical. Why? Why is it poetry? This poem is a poem of place. We call it poem of place, right? And you're going to write a poem like this, and probably your poem will be much better than this one, right? What do you think, right? You can do it better, right? Okay, what's the difference? This is poem. Why is it poem? What kind of things? What kind of thing? Now poetic. What makes this a poem? Why? Look at line 1. Look at the first line. I will rise and go now and go to industry. Oh, it's beautiful, but it's something strange. Why do you have to repeat? Why do you have to repeat, right? Right? Go, right? And go, right? And if you turn it into a sentence, I will go to industry now, right? If you turn it the prose piece, I will go to industry. I'll go to industry now. One sentence. If you say, I'll go to industry now, is it poem? No, not a poem, right? But here, I will arise and go now and go to industry. Again, the verb is a problem, right? Arise. Who in the world will say, I will arise, right? Can you say, I will arise and go now? Arise, arose, right? The sun arose, right? But can you say, I arose, I rise? I arose at 6 in the morning. Can you say that? No. So it's called what? Yeats knew this, right? It's archaic, kind of archaic. Arise, right? Arose. So I will arise and go now, and go to industry. And so repetition is very important in a poem. For a special effect, you repeat lines or words and certain kind of accents and pronunciation. So repetition is particularly in Korean poetry, repetition is very important, right? And repetition. So I will rise and go now and go to industry, and a small cabin built there of clay and wattles made. Okay, here, and a small cabin built there. What's missing here? In conversation and in writing, writing in English, you have certain fixed form, right? In English, English language is what? The English language has certain word order, right? We call it subject, verb, object, SVO pattern, right? Subject, verb, complement. If you change the word order, it's wrong, right? Right? The difference between Korean and English is what? The main difference is word order. In Korean, you can ignore the word order, right? Right? So when someone is talking about something, you have to wait until he's finished, right? When your friend is talking about something very complicated, you have to listen carefully. But in English, it's quite simple. If you pay attention to the first part of the sentence, you can understand it because it says fixed forms, right? I will provide you with a lot of information. If I use the verb provide, then you can expect with, right? We're going to provide you with a lot of information, right? Provide with, right? So in a certain way, English is easier than Korean, right? So English has a fixed order, word order, subject, verb, object. You cannot omit subject, right? You cannot omit verb, right? In a parallel structure, if there are two parallel structures, subject, verb, object, and subject, verb, object, in the second portion you can omit verb, of course, right? But there are certain rules, right? When you omit something. So, but here, when a small cabin built there, build is the function of part of speech. What part of speech is it? Subject, verb, object. What is it? Build is what? Verb. Yeah. Then, which one is the subject? This is verb. This verb must have a subject, right? Which one is verb for this? I, right? I will, right? I will build a small cabin there. And also there's an inversion here, right? Subject, verb, object. Object comes at the head of a sentence. What does it mean? It means I'm going to emphasize this, right? So, and the small cabin built there. And I will build a small cabin there, right? If you say, and I will build a small cabin there, then it's a prose, not a verse, not verse, right? Okay, build the cabin made of what? Made of clay and wattles. Made of clay and wattles. Made of clay and wattles. And there is inversion here. Made of clay and wattles. The proper word order is made of clay and wattles. And made it comes at the end of the line, second line. Why? In order to give it rhyme, right? Rhyme. Rhyme is what? Line 1, line 2, line 3, and line 4. Each line ends with a certain rule. Line 1, A. Line B, B. Line 3, A. Line 4, B. A, B, A, B. Things like that. Why do you have to have this kind of rules? Why? Because poetry is different from prose. Why? I don't know why, but humanity began to use poetry first, not prose, right? Of course, poetry was for a special purpose. What is it? When do you use it? They want, do you think written language, right? The writing system. When did it invented? When was it invented? Who invented writing? The Korean writing. Who invented it? The King Sejong, right? Right? And who invented the English alphabet? The English people, right? They adopted it, but we created our own writing system. Chinese had their own writing system. It's very old, right? And before the writing system, what did we have? Nothing, right? You have to speak to other people orally, right? And you have to remember what you heard. You pass history You pass history to your generations. How? By making a poem, right? So, in order to remember, in order to recall something easily, you need certain kind of rules, right? Rhyming, meter, feet, repetitions, things like that. So that's poetry, right? Poetry. So in poetry, we call stanza. In prose, we call the first portion of writing, paragraph, right? In a paragraph, you put an idea, or of course you can put a few ideas in a paragraph, but generally one paragraph has one idea. Second paragraph has another idea, things like that. And in poetry, we do the same thing. Stanza 1, we call it stanza. Stanza, S-T-A-N-Z-A, stanza. Stanza 1, stanza 2, stanza 3. And how many stanzas are there in this poem? How many stanzas? Right? If there is space between lines, is a stanza, separate stanza, right? So line 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then space. So that means this is first stanza, but the problem is line 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is it line B? Is not a line, right? So it's the same line as the third line. So honeybee. So stanza 1, how many lines are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 lines, right? 4 lines. And stanza 2, how many lines? 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, 4 lines. Stanza 3, the last stanza, how many lines? Again, 4 lines, right? So let's look at the rhyme scheme. Innisfree, made, be, glade, right? Free, made, be, glade. A, B, A, B, right? A, B, A, B, right? Free, Innisfree, glade, Innisfree, honeybee, ends with B, free, right? Second line, made, and in the fourth line, glade, made, glade. Line scheme, A, B, right? So, in Yeats' poetry, all the poems have certain rules like this, right? Yeats uses conventional poetic forms, conventional poetic forms, and Robert Frost will be different, right? He looks like the poems look like conventional, but they are different, right? But so line 3, 9 bin loaves will I have there? 9 bin loaves will I have there? There, what? There. Title, Innisfree, right? A hive for the honeybee, and live alone in bee loud glade. Live alone in bee loud glade. Very beautiful. Right? I will rise and go now and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin built there, of clay and wattles made. 9 bin rows will I have there, hive for the honeybee, live alone in the bee loud glade. Live alone in the bee loud glade. Beautiful. So in this poem, you can hear something. You can see and hear and you can smell, right? Okay, stanza 2. And I shall have some peace there. I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the vales of morning to where the cricket sings. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow. Peace comes dropping slow. What can you see? Can you hear? When you can hear water drops fall, what does it mean? It's very quiet. If it's noisy, you can't hear it. Or in the morning, when water drops fall upon the leaves, you can hear, right? Drop, drop, drop. Can you hear? Like that, very quiet, right? So the poet repeated the same phrase, same phrasing, right? Peace comes dropping slow, dropping, dropping, dropping. Just it's like the action of water dropping to the ground, right? Dropping from the veils of the morning to where the cricket sings. Okay, from A to B, from place A to B, right? From the veils of morning, what does it mean? The veils of morning. Very poetic, the veils of morning. What does it mean? The veils of morning. Woman wears a veil, right? Veil. Veils of morning. If a woman wears a veil, can you see her face? Foggy, right? Or in the morning, it's foggy. From the veils of morning to where the cricket sings. When do crickets begin singing? In the afternoon, when it's hot, right? So, from the veils of morning to where the cricket sings, there, again, the poet repeats there, midnight's all a glimmer. Midnight is all a glimmer. And noon, a verb is omitted here. Noon, a purple glow. Noon, a purple glow. Purple glow. Do you see the difference between morning, afternoon, evening? All right. Or in the morning, for example, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, it's foggy. And then when the sun rises up, the fog burns up, and then it's clear. But still, if you take a picture, the blue color is much clearer, right? Blue. But in the afternoon, what? The yellow, right, is stronger. And at 3 o'clock, the hottest day of, right? The hottest in the day is 3 p.m. is very hot. So if you look at the trees, fields, and things like that, it's different. If you take pictures, you can see that, right? So noon, purple glow. Evening, full of the linnet wings. So this is what? The poet is right. He is imagining Sligo. Right? In Sligo, there is a small island industry, right? That I will rise and go now, for all this day and night I hear the lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore. While, look at that. At the end of line 2, what do you see? What kind of punctuation do you see? Period, semicolon, colon, right? Dash. Do you know how to use them? Right? In this poem, there are different uses of punctuations, right? What are they? Comma, and the semicolon, period, right? Period, right? Let's go back to the first stanza. what do you see in the first line? What do you see? What kind of punctuation do you see? 2 commas, right? I will rise and go now, comma, and go to industry, comma. And a small cabin built there, comma, of clay and wattles made, colon. Actually, in this poem, the poet uses too many commas here. Actually, he doesn't need the commas here. Without comma, it's okay. Huh? No problem. But then, what does it mean? What does the commas, what kind of function does the comma have here? What function? What role does it play? It's like music. Music, right? If there is a comma, what does it mean? You have to stop here, give pause, little pause, right? So if you say, I will arise and go now and go to industry, and you can't say that, right? You have to pause. I will rise and go now, pause. And go to industry, pause. And the small cabin built there, of clay and wattles made, comma. Particularly the third comma is very strange one, right? Right there, but without comma, it's awkward because cabin, a small cabin made of clay and wattles, made of clay and wattles. That's the proper order, but with comma is quite natural. The unnatural comma becomes a natural comma here, right? The unnatural comma makes this line natural. That's the ability of the poet, right? So, and a colon, what does a colon mean? If you see a colon, there is a similar punctuation, semicolon, colon and semicolon. Semicolon, do you know semicolon? Semicolon is similar to commas. If there is a confusion between comma and semicolon, then you use semicolon instead of commas, right? Semicolon. Or if you use colon, what does it mean? That is, for example, things like that. When you want to enumerate something, you use colon, right? So, made 9 bin rows will I have there, a hive for the honeybee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade, and then period. So, stanza 1 is finished, period. So, the functions of the comma, period. And I shall have some peace there, comma, for peace comes dropping slow, comma, dropping from the vales of morning to where the cricket sing, semicolon. Okay, look at the 3 semicolons. In stanza 1, there is semicolon. In stanza 2, second semicolon. And stanza 3, third semicolon. Look at where the semicolon is located. In the middle, right? So each stanza is divided into 2 parts with a semicolon. So it's very systematic, right? Very logical, right? So this poem is quite simple, looks quite simple, but if you look at it very closely, you'll see the logic behind it. What kind of things lie behind this simple surface, right? Okay, the midnight solar glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evening full of linned wings. And stanza 3, I will rise and go now, for always, night and day, I hear lake water laughing with low sounds by the shore. While I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's gray, I hear it in deep heart score. Okay, we'll take a 10 minutes break. Okay, thank you.